that was the new music.
Shout out to Chris and Matt.
Yeah. Chris and Matt, I think there's maybe a bit of Josh be put in there.
Ooh.
Some bass. It's nice being around talented people.
Yeah, that was a fun day when we come to like record all the guitar parts and stuff. And I really enjoyed that.
I know. I remember when we used to do that in your bedroom.
Yeah.
With the Logic Pro.
Yeah.
It was very alien to me, that kind of stuff.
I had like that old MacBook where the screen was like hanging off of it.
Yeah. All taped together. Yeah. I think that's the crazy thing about like how there's so many creative people in like our circle. Really is like our circle kind of sounds a bit funny, but the how everyone can get together and kind of make a little bit of magic. Chris is such a talented
like watching him sit there and sort of create that and then say to me, I want it to be a little bit more like this, a little bit more like this, watching all those like little pieces come together. Like, damn, this guy like really knows his shit.
Yeah. I never actually, after all the years, like we recorded in a band when we was younger a little bit, but it wasn't, it was so long ago, you kind of remember it. And I remember the studio guy he was taking charge. So it was just like, you go in, you record your bit, I'll do the rest, do whatever. But he's picked up so much from all the touring
and like a lot of it because he always says he doesn't know much about like music theory.
Yeah.
But his knowledge on like dissecting music and stuff, even when we sit in the shop and listen to how he speaks about music that we listen to in there, and how he breaks that apart, I'm like, you really know a lot more than you think about this stuff.
I think that's why music frustrates him sometimes as well. I thought it would be that his music, his stand-on music is completely different to mine because his is very mine is about feeling, and with my creativity is a bit different. I won't have like a formula all the time. I understand that there's many formulas to things and they kind of create this bigger picture or whatever, but his is very to the book. Like there is a rhythm, there is a thing, you need to stick to this, and blah blah blah. And I'll show him a song that I'm like, doesn't this make you like feel good? And he's like
but these parts don't match. These parts shouldn't be together.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, but it's the fact that they don't.
Yeah. How does it make you feel? And he's like angry.
Yeah, so shout out to Chris. It's a really, really nice piece to do, and quite nostalgic for like the pop punk era. I know that you weren't really.
I wasn't there for it really. I was a big 50 Cent fan. Shout out 50.
Yeah. So I mean, man, it's been we haven't sat down like this since the first podcast, and the first podcast was very crazy because it was quite overwhelming. We were going really YouTube with it, and
really wanted to do all the we wanted to tick all those YouTuber boxes. Make sure we were doing everything right.
And then the more we sat down with the guests and the fruition of everything and like how it come through, remember those walks that we used to take with each other, to be like, oh, maybe we should start a podcast. To kind of come around for anyone that's kind of listening and doesn't know, the podcast actually come around from people mentioning it all the time in the shop.
It was getting like to the point where it was like once a week someone would say like, you guys should do a podcast.
Yeah, and we would always look at each other like, and another one. Yeah, and I guess it's nice that people want to hear what you have to say, or that was in an environment where it was kind of funny. So I think we were trying to take that environment of the humor and shocking into it, and then the more we've kind of sat down and done with the guests, it's kind of come from really the angle that we set out for, like push the boat out a little bit, and now it's sailing down the river a bit, but what a mad couple
it's been crazy. It's been super I don't want to say like busy because that makes it sound like I haven't wanted to do it. Makes it seem like work. Hasn't felt like work, but there's been a lot to do.
Yeah.
It's taken up a lot of consumed a lot of my mind space.
Yeah.
The whole time we've been doing it, but it's been a trip.
Yeah.
It's been great.
The people as well that we've kind of been exposed to in that sense is just, the stuff that people don't see behind the scenes of this podcast are probably which we should try some way to capture, because some of that stuff is really, really magical. You know, that stuff. The people that we've met are just so.
That's been like one of my like favorite takeaways from us doing this is like the people I've got to meet along the way.
Yeah.
Like coming from not really knowing anyone in the industry to getting to meet these like real influential artists and stuff, and like seeing how they came up, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And like one example is how Jack, how nervous he was.
Yeah.
Before we done the podcast and stuff, and he was like super nervous about being on camera and stuff. And then as soon as he started speaking, I was like, this guy's a natural, man.
Yeah. And it's crazy to see some human side, because I know Jack. I've known him for a couple of years, but the real thing for me, I've met Jack in spells, as in like in different parts of my life. We did guest spots. I remember I did a kind of filmed interview, kind of tattoo over at Cloak and Dagger years ago, and I've never actually had to. I remember saying to him at the podcast, I was like, "We've never sat down and spoke like this about, you know, how you started or how you feel and how you get creative and stuff." And maybe that gets kind of lost with some people when you really see the human element to someone, that they're not just this like big, you know, untouchable force online, that there is a...
Because that's kind of the perspective I had of it all. Like all these people we're speaking to, they'd almost like look down at me like, who the fuck is this guy? Like,
right.
Who is it? Like Mike's little like tag along. And I was always there like, bro, what if they don't like me?
Yeah.
And seeing like the real side of it is everyone's just people.
No,
we're all just people at the end of the day. Everyone's got their like story to tell.
Yeah.
And it's been nice to like see it. Just have people come and show me that you can still be a normal person and be really successful at what you do.
I think as well with that, like, it's crazy how much insecurity gets in the way of that creative process, that could really stop a moment, can't it? And that's all internal, you know, of just like something you feel about yourself. Even with us, of being, you know, making YouTube thumbnails and stuff, and we're just like, oh, do we have to do this? And then we kind of sat today and going, we're not going to do that.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
We were getting lost in the sauce.
Forcing something. And I think the guests have been great, and having them, what they want to say is so good, you know, like hearing Russell's, his creative spell of how he gets creative. And then hearing Jack's is like, I will never do a stencil, for example, that isn't immaculate.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't do that. You know, I couldn't deal with it. And then Russell's was like, I just put a little bit of the stencil on and then just try and do the rest.
Yeah.
It's one's worst nightmare.
It really is, yeah. It really is.
And what I've learned from this, and what is kind of great about what we were trying to get through with the podcast, about there's a whole journey to this, the mentor with an apprentice and an apprentice to a mentor, that if you're going to learn something or there is something to be learned, you are always still a student. So it almost feels like we went for that angle, but it was two students now.
Yeah.
You know, two students, because it never ends, you know. And seeing him, them talk about it shows you that there is no wrong answer.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no one definitive way to do everything.
No. And I remember hearing a saying one time where it was like, you know, a genius in their head holds two, it's kind of like two sides of the thing. It's like two outcomes.
Yeah.
So it will battle and drift between both instead of being one-sided, you know? And I was super, super pumped afterwards, after hearing everyone, you know, tell their story and all this. And you kind of get lost in there every day.
What's happened?
Oh, are we back? We just had a little blip, I think, there.
Oh, okay.
That's fine.
I thought you was going to be like, I haven't recorded any of this.
No, it come up saying the roadcaster or something had kicked in or something like that. But yeah, the idea that it was that there's still so much to learn, and there's so many different avenues, and there's so many different ways of doing everything, that there is no wrong answer. Even doing the webinar with Russell, where, you know, I had to kind of say to people at the start of being like, look, there is this way, I'm going to tell you this way, and Russell's going to tell you one way, and there is no wrong way. And then it almost sounds like, when I hear it from a perspective of someone trying to learn, that you'd be like, I need to know an answer.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the thing with art and creativity. It never has an answer. It just is. You know, yes, there is an element for the machines and the inks and the needles and the things like that everyone has an agreement with, you know, of kind of like, this is how you do it. This is what's going to tear up the skin. This is going to be bad for the skin. This is going to be heal bad, whatever. Or you can't do so much on the skin, or etc. But the actual teaching of the execution in the person's hand, the bit that makes it an art form, you know, than it not being just mechanical in a machine. Because then a computer could just do it, you know, a computer could just say, okay, well, that's the formula. Okay, code the formula and you'll get the perfect tattoo. I don't think that would ever happen, because it hasn't got that human flair to it. It hasn't got what Russell has. It hasn't got the mind of what Jack has, you know, in his, or, you know, what Josh has in on his side, you know. So it's a really magical kind of moment to be able to make it.
Like, even seeing it even today, like just walking around the shop, because I'll do like my rant and I'll watch Yuto for a little while. I'll go and watch Chris for a little while. I'll go and watch Jess. I'll go watch Josh. Go watch Belle. And everyone's doing something like ever so slightly differently, but it's working for everyone.
Yeah.
And I like to think like maybe I could take a little bit of that, try that, take a little bit of that, take a little bit of that. And it is like something you can't recreate with like robotic stuff.
No.
Everyone has their own like specific flair. And I think that's what I do enjoy the most. Like after the guests we've had on, I've always been so pumped to get back in the shop and just start working again.
Yeah. Which is such a, the thing is that I think that creativity and art, it can be taught. There can be a teaching element to it.
Yeah.
But it just it's kind of it's kind of like a being, isn't it? Like you can't really put your finger on what it is or what makes it something that you could pick up or learn, or what there is to learn about it. It's kind of just there, you know. And I think everyone has it. If you have something that you're passionate about, you have to like it. You can't learn something if you don't like something, you know, no matter how much you pick up the thing that you don't like. If your heart's not in that place, you can't be creative, I don't think. I think you can work a machine per se, apart from, say, a camera. A camera still has that creative edge to, you have to look at the lens, you have to be in the position, you have to do whatever.
I remember a little while ago, because me and Chris talk about like photography sometimes.
Yeah.
And he said like, you could put £100 camera in the hands of someone that knows what they're doing, and they're going to take a better photo if you took an absolute novice off the street and gave them a $5,000 camera setup.
Yeah.
That $5,000 camera setup isn't going to make them take a better photo.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that, like, when he said that to me, that really spoke to me. I was like, yeah.
It's true. It's completely true. And we had a message actually from one of the messages from apprentices talking about machines, for example. And then they're asking what machines to buy. And it's crazy because like machines are really expensive, you know, they're really expensive, you know, compared to when I started. You could buy a couple of coil machines for, you know, 200 quid, you know. I'm sure there's machine builders out there now that, you know, do them around that price. I haven't really seen the market for a while, but the machines are big business. They're very expensive these days. So you've got people that are coming off the, you know, off of working free labor, or in like yourself in apprenticing, thinking, how am I going to get one of these machines? So the message was kind of like, should I get one? I don't want to be the artist with all the gear and no idea,
100%.
you know? And that's when I sent them that message for it was a video I saw from a very talented tattooer, maybe in Portugal or Spain or somewhere like that. And they had made a machine they used tubes and needles, but they made it with a toothbrush. And they tattooed themselves.
Very similar, thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, it was just grabbed out of the packet. It was all new. They were doing it in the tattoo shop. But anyone that's listening to this, this is a professional tattooer. They broke down the machine, wrapped it all up. They were obviously an engineer to some degree, because I followed him afterwards and I saw that he was making bikes and stuff like that. He has extensive knowledge of that kind of stuff. He's obviously looked at it once and went, that's really easy to make.
Well, when you showed me the coil machine and I had the one that was all in pieces and you had to put the coils together and stuff.
Yeah.
And I looked at that and I was like, this is a doorbell.
Yeah,
I was like, this is just a doorbell.
Yeah, yeah. And the older the rotary system is the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's old tattoo illustrations where they have the doorbell set up. Where it dates back to it's 1860 or something like that. Been going around for a while. Yeah. But I sent them that and said, look, because the guy does a tattoo on himself and it's just immaculately clean.
Yeah.
It looks great. And it's like that tattoo machine probably cost under a tenner. The expensive part was probably the tattoo equipment they use with the grip and the needle, and with how tattoo suppliers are going these days. Mm-hmm. He bought a toothbrush and a bunch of stuff, and that was it. And it was immaculate. It was the craftsman behind the tool.
Yeah.
That was there. So, and then they were like, I was like, obviously I'm not saying buy a toothbrush.
Don't do it.
But what I'm trying to get at is the knowledge side is such an important part to any aspect, and the feeling and how you're doing it. And I don't want to sound too whimsical, but it's kind of like a fleeting kind of moment for, trying to get something right. When you're buying the tools to do that almost is secondary.
Yeah.
It's about capturing the moment of your creativity,
Yeah, I feel like that's something that comes along later on through your learning experience as well, if you know what I mean.
Well, the equipment?
The equipment side of things. It's like once you've got those fundamentals down, then there's maybe parts you want to fine tune. And maybe this machine will do it a little bit better than this machine does.
Yeah.
And that's when you really want to start worrying about what machines you're using. But to begin with, I think it's probably best to just work. I might be wrong, but just to work on those fundamentals.
I think you're right, because I have a box of machines, so I went through them all, and I can pick up any of them.
Yeah,
it'd be fine. It's the knowledge. Yeah. I could hear the machine and change it and do all that stuff, but that comes through practice and understanding and really sitting with the tools and understanding, something. I don't think there's always that thing where it doesn't matter how expensive the machine is, you can request a machine to someone or say, hey, I've been trying this, try that out. And you just try it and you go, I just don't like how it feels in my hand. Yeah. So that goes into then it being quite fluid, doesn't it? With you're almost attached to your equipment in that sense of like a painter is with a paintbrush. They don't care if the brush is £500 more, because they're like, these are just my classic brushes. And look at the art I've made with it. It speaks for itself. And you'll look at them and go, they look gross. They're covered in paint. They look kind of crazy, but it can't capture that moment in it because it's embedded in it. A new brush may not do that. It may not ever get that back. Yeah. It's like some people prefer their old cars, and they get a new car and it feels really alien.
Yeah. I've got screwdrivers I've had since I was 13.
Yeah.
And I'll never replace them because I like the grip on it.
Yeah.
I like how it feels. So I can kind of relate to it.
Yeah. Oh, you will. You got your first machine. Well, you got a machine before, but you got a new machine.
I did. Yeah. Very exciting.
From Russell.
Yeah, shout out to Russ. Thank you very much.
Yeah. after your profound talk with him.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that talk. That was great. I remember like sitting in the car with you afterwards, and I was like, mate, I can't wait to go back to work.
I can't believe he did that. I got a load of messages from people being like, he is such a nice guy. And I was like, he is nice. When we spoke to him, he was really nice.
Yeah.
Again, he was super nervous.
He was,
you know, talked to him about it, and he was kind of, you know, a little bit self-conscious as well. You can see this, you know, that human element to someone that, you know, he was really appreciative as well, like of the opportunity. He kept on saying that. And I was like, this guy's a really nice guy, you know.
A real down-to-earth guy.
Yeah. And then from people from the outside who don't know, we did a webinar afterwards, and we made ticket sales for that, you know, to come and learn, just for tattoo artists. And he said, my bit of the money, don't give me. He was like, you can pay me the remainder, but buy Joe whatever tattoo machine he wants, or whatever. He said to keep it a secret, so I had to do that on your behalf. But I thought about those rotaries. I was like, it's nearly like $1,000.
Yeah,
you know. And he was like, yeah, it's cool. They didn't even blink at it.
And yeah, I appreciate that. So it's such a nice gesture, and I didn't really know what to say at the time. Kind of got like a little bit flustered. I was like, someone would do that for me?
Yeah.
So, fuck.
He's gonna hear that.
Oh yeah, shit.
Someone.
No, I mean I'm super tough. I was like, cool, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like kind of choked up. I was like, that's like one of the nicest things someone's like done.
That's the thing.
Like, fuck, man.
It is a good community. That's the thing. Is like, you know, I feel bad we made that serial killer one now.
Yeah.
No. But the of just how great people are in the community as well, and that really kind of rekindled a bunch of stuff and really strove for me, because it's nerve-wracking to go and speak to some of these people, because you think like, what if they have that minute before we're about to start, and you think, what if they have some wild views about something that actually don't correlate with mine? And obviously we normally talk about art and tattooing, but that you meet some people that can be quite wild and aggressive, especially when they have something to protect. I feel like they don't just like the ride; they want to protect their journey as well. And he was just all the guests we've had are just none of that, you know. And it's just like
it's been like after the Russell podcast, I couldn't wait to get back to work, and then after the Jack, like one we done with Jack, I was sitting up till 2 a.m. like drawing after listening to like his process with how he does his drawings and stuff. And I was like, fucking, that's like my main takeaway from the podcast is like that extra drive it's given me, and almost making it feel, because like the levels these guys are at, like sometimes it feels a little bit like unreachable.
Yeah,
it seems so far away. Where I'm right at the beginning of my journey, I'm like, sometimes you get a bit beat down, or I'm never going to get there.
I don't think you ever really get to feel that moment, which is a shame, because it's kind of like you just live in it.
Yeah.
It's just happening, and you don't realize. I can imagine like people, I imagine now, say someone like the Red Hot Chili Peppers or something, is people will be like, you're the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And they're like, I know. Like,
we've done that.
We've been doing this for years because we're just doing the same material. But I mean, when they first come and then was around, and that, you know, I don't know. Maybe they don't. Maybe they do have that kind of feeling of just being like, you know, that imposter syndrome feeling. It kind of goes. I will always look at people's art that I admire and I've admired from the beginning, and I'm like, damn, like there's always an aspect to learn where you're like, I wish I did that, you know, or I could do that, or whatever. Sitting down doing the webinars, especially when Jack did his one, it was really refreshing to see something and be like, I'm back in the student chair, which is great, you know, and thinking of being in a rut. I don't get into ruts. I feel like I burn out is the thing, you know, and then to kind of be like, no, you could feel it. You were about to burn out because you're working all the time. But then those little moments when you do that with people and you feel like, oh wait, I'm going to try that, or it's just sparked off something where you're like, okay, let me add this into my creative process, and I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah.
And when you start enjoying, that's when it starts going and it starts tumbling and it really starts overlapping everything, you know, because burnouts can be bad, you know.
Yeah.
people get in ruts and you can't create for months or whatever.
Yeah, because like that's kind of not where I was at before. Like before listening to Jack speak, but I kind of didn't really have a direction, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
does that make sense? I didn't know where I was going with my artwork.
Yeah.
And then I sat and I saw like that he had a whole process that he went through, and I was like, I'm just going to try this.
Yeah. Maybe you learn more from the technical side.
Yeah.
Like when we're talking about me and Chris appreciating the different things with the music, you might be more on the Chris side with the tattoo.
Yeah, seeing like how he had like the process of how he works through things and how like he forms it together, and I was like, I'll try that.
Yeah,
and I'd done some really nice artwork from it, and I like got to the end of drawing the stuff, and I was like, I'm really happy with how this has come out.
Yeah, and then you enjoy it, and then it goes around, and then it goes in a cycle.
And then it was like 2:00 in the morning, I was still up drawing, and then 2 days later, I've done like 10 of these pieces of artwork. I was like, I'm fucking loving this.
Yeah. And your tattoo looked really good. The snake and the skull that you did.
I was really happy with how that came out.
How long did that take you in the end?
It didn't take as long as I thought it was going to take.
Yeah, because it was. I remember when we sat down and we were drawing it, I was like, there's a lot in this.
Yeah,
you know.
And maybe like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
It didn't take too long.
But it's probably because you're enjoying it. It's just
mate, once I got into like the zone of it, I was really enjoying that.
Yeah.
And like I explained to the guy, because I've tattooed the guy a few times, I was like, I'm going to really take my time with this one. I was like, I've spent a long time designing this, and I want this to like really be perfect, because this is kind of like a level up for me.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, cool, man.
Yeah.
So I was like, we'll take as many breaks as you want, because I was expecting that to take me like 7 hours working all the different little bits in. And then once I was in the zone, I was like, I'm fucking loving this.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of really nice messages from people about that tattoo as well, which felt really good.
You've got a good community of apprentices around.
And shout out to our buddy James as well. He sent me a nice message about that, saying that it was really
Taylor.
Cool. Yeah,
man, he's been great.
When he messaged me, that was probably like the best message I got, because me and him don't really talk about tattoos very often.
Yeah, and James, since you do listen to the podcast, when are you going to get tattooed by Joe?
Shout out to James. But that was probably one of the nicest messages I got. I was like, fuck yeah, nice, thanks, man. That means a lot.
He brought me up a lot on my tattooing. Like, you know, when I remember he got tattooed. I can't remember the artist, but I was tattooing at the time and I sucked, you know.
Yeah.
You know. And he really helped me like get my, you know, just letting me, like just allowing me to tattoo him. I remember I did it was a timepiece from, I think it's Guns Up, the hardcore band.
Yeah.
And there's a song called Time Won't Change For Me. I may be getting that wrong. But so it's a cracked timepiece with a skull in it. And then it has Time Won't Change For Me around it.
Yeah.
It sounds way cooler than I executed it. But I always see those and like it's hard to... Right. I done a tattoo on Chris. This is what I was about to say, like with my feeling towards it, right? With seeing those type of tattoos, especially ones that you've done years ago on people, because you're always like, oh, no, you know, like, because you're always evolving. You obviously had to start somewhere and I always want to just refresh them. I did do a couple of cover-ups for James.
Yeah, you did.
But Chris has a tattoo on his foot from me. And it's when we first picked up a machine and I tattooed his foot, and literally the first wipe on the foot, the stencil just come completely off. It was like the first one. Yeah. It didn't even attempt to stay on, but I didn't have any solution that would stick on. Didn't know. You know, we just put Dettol on the foot and, you know, kind of cleaned it down a bit. And then we got a bit of water and then put it on and then put the water on it. And then it was like a blurry stencil. I was like, yeah, there you go. There it is. Did one of the lines and then just one wipe and it just
gone,
completely gone. And we just gunned it, you know, just went around. And I always see that tattoo. I'm like, oh, you know, and he's like, I'm keeping that tattoo forever.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny how like there's something in that piece that is like very meaningful to him.
It's like a milestone.
Yeah. And I'm not suggesting that James thinks that about his leg, but you know, he's probably listening to this going, Brad, no, cover it. But yeah, it's funny that, you know, with kind of art, and you're creating and you're thinking about like things of how you want to manipulate, and you want a certain look and you want something good, that you always forget the feeling. So with you, with saying, I'm designing and I've got a formula for things, and now I'm flying, I'm going really, really well. And then for me, I design. I got a message the other week of someone that was saying, how do you seem to never burn out? I was like, well, first of all, that's not true, you know. And I always like to look at creativity kind of like, I heard someone talk about creativity. It was actually Rick Rubin the other day on our show. He's a producer, and he explained it perfectly. He said it's like creativity comes in waves, right? And it's like driving through the desert, and you get certain radio stations, and the radio stations kick in, and you're there and you're having a great time. But soon that radio station is going to drop out until you get into the next zone. And it's about enjoying it while you're on the radio station.
While it's there.
While it's there, you have to enjoy it and really grab it, or it will go. And I think a perfect example of that, of like it kind of popping into your head and utilizing that moment, because this morning when I come to you and I was like, there's things I want to change about the podcast, or I'm happy with the guests and all this stuff of how it is, but our connection to it is the best word to say it. It would like it to be more ingrained in what our original purpose
what we wanted it to be to begin with.
Yeah. And then we was like, okay. And then we were talking about it, and everything was flowing, and then all that stuff. And then we're like, yeah, this is great. Just like the days when we were walking through, going on those walks, doing the Sunday service, doing all that stuff. And then I went back to tattooing. And then I hate that, because when I do my creative process, I have to do it immediately.
Yeah.
And I think he said as well about a quote by John Lennon saying that he always had a quote that would say, if you make a song or start writing a song, make sure you finish it that day.
Yeah.
And then he was saying about that to be like he didn't understand that at the first, and me the same when I listened to it. And then when he was saying that it's kind of like to stay on the wave of something, because it might come out different afterwards. So for me, when I have these moments of like, I've been inspired by something, I have to do it there and then.
Yeah.
Because if I go, I'll go to the gym, or I'll go out for dinner, and then I'll do this, and then I'll get on it, the moment's gone. Yeah. The feeling is gone. That was there.
You're trying to like recreate what you had earlier.
Exactly. Yeah, perfect. So when I have my creative process, I really have to kind of tap in and lock in on those moments, which is by feeling, instead of then there being an actual method for something.
Yeah.
Like there can be drawing in shapes and doing all that stuff, and that would get me there. But what is there to draw the shapes of? There's that whole bit before that is gone, you know, because there's no inspiration that's entered, you know. And a perfect person who does that as well is actually one of the first people that I had met that does that is Jess. Yeah. Jess Penfold in the shop. Is she will say that she will have these feelings sometimes when sometimes it comes to her in a dream, and she'll hop up at night and have to sketch something down quickly and go back to bed. And that's what I'm talking about, is that if you leave it, it's gone, and you may never have it. And sometimes I feel like on my phone, I have notes on my phone where it's just full of stuff. And some days I read back to it when I forgot the moment, and I'll look through my notes, and it looks like it's like notes of a crazy person, you know, like really from the outside, it's someone crazy, like is writing random words down. But if I read that word that day again as a trigger, I know exactly what it means. And some of them get me back. I'll be like, I remember what I was talking about there. But there'll be like red burn, fox sad, eternal bliss or something like that. And it'll be something like that. And then for me, I'm like, what the hell is that? And then I remember on that day, it's like, oh, you were doing this like kind of this fox that was going to leap out of this kind of hole and it glows up everything and the leaves kind of shine out of it. And it is meant to make this kind of process of like you're leaping out of darkness and all this stuff. Reading that is impossible though.
Yeah.
Because it's gone. The moment's gone. So it needs to be kind of done in that moment.
Is it kind of the same as like when you wake up and you want to remember your dream?
Yeah, and it's slowly slipping away the more you think
over
about
the next couple of hours, that dream, like even the facts you do remember, they get a little bit obscured along the way each time until you either remember nothing or you remember something completely different.
It's exactly that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really weird feeling, man, because it can be really, really nice, but then when you get the stints where that's not happening all the time, then and you feel like you're in a rut then, and that's what this message was about when someone messaged and was like, oh, how do you stay so in tune with yourself and you don't seem to burn out. And it's just not true. But the way that I have matured with my art now, and even down to with this podcast, what we were talking about this morning and trying to do that steps I need to apply it into this, is that we always want to take big leaps.
Yeah.
Always want to do big strides, big things all the time, because that's the way we're kind of programmed to be like, if you're not doing it one big time, then it's not done. But you forget to do all the small stuff. So what you're talking about, this is where our conversation meets each other. Yeah. So there's mine of coming in and, trying to keep everything all together and whatever, and being in the moment. And then yours is very much, I've got this process. If I followed this process, oh, bingo, that's working.
Yeah.
You're doing the small stuff, and I think that's what, when I've replied to this person saying that how I get myself out of a creative rut with that is, imagine that you're going to go on a hike, right? It's a very arduous hike. It's going to be the 100 miles, you're going to be very confident at first and you're happy to kind of be on the hike and you're going to take these big strides. And there's a complete goal that is going to be, the 100-mile mark. That's the end goal. It's the 100 miles. You take big strides because it's easy. By the 50-mile mark, those big strides are gone.
Yeah.
All your enthusiasm is gone. You're burnt out, right? But it's those small steps that you would never even take at the start of what's the point of the hike? To get out and do these little penguin steps on the hike. You want to go out there and do it big. They're the small steps that will get you home. And it's weird that we don't do that. We don't mix them at the start. You don't go, well, actually, why don't we do the first 3 hours? Why don't we take small steps? And then we're going to start taking some big strides. We'll go back to some small steps, and really kind of change it up. So if I had to relate it to art in that sense, if, without the analogy, would be I would change something. So if I have something that I think would be good, like photography, for example, I would just do that for the weekend. It's still something creative. I called it active creativity. So like someone would have a rest day from the gym and they have active rest when it's still cycling might be active rest to them. It's not weightlifting anymore.
Yeah, they're not doing their normal routine in the gym.
Yeah, but their body's moving and all that stuff. I would do that with creativity. So it might be something like, remember when we started those illustration pages?
Yeah.
And it was just putting these illustration pages up and doodling whatever.
Yeah.
There wasn't anything strict or, very regimented about it because I didn't have to do my work on it. I could just do whatever.
Because you had quite a lot of fun doing that as well, didn't you? Like,
yeah, so much fun.
I can imagine it was like a nice break for you to just draw, like.
Yeah. Just to be, just to create something I like, and no one has to see it. It got put on a page that no one had to follow, you know, and it ended up getting some traction on there. People were like, "Oh, this is kind of cool," but they're seeing me having fun.
Yeah,
that's all they're seeing, you know.
And because none of it was attached to like your name either.
No,
so there was nothing from you attached to that page. It was
no expectations.
It was just some illustrations that you wanted to do.
Yeah, and then what happened with that page was it ironed out all the kinks of what I would do with mine. So with my work, I suddenly had a burst of like, oh, I can start creating this, or maybe I should do this with that. And then you've got the radio station comes back in.
Yeah.
And then you're back. But you did the small steps of going, well, some days I would sit around and do an illustration with Phoenix, say, you know, and it will be something very, very simple. That even a phrase that Phoenix might even say, I get this kind of inspiration from people. It's mad. Like, be doing something and someone might even say a phrase that I'm like, oh, if I said it to them, this is why I don't do this. If I said it to them, I've got a really good idea that you've just given me, and then told them the idea, they would be like, I don't know how you got to that.
Yeah, how did you add two and two together and get like whatever you've come out with there?
Yeah, but it does, and another, again, back to Jess, she does that.
Yeah,
she'll come in, and we've had conversations before, and I'll be talking to her, and she'll stop, and she will say it. She'll do what I'm scared to say, where she'll be like, "You've given me a really good idea. I'm going to go home and I'm going to do this." And I will even think I do that, but I still don't understand how you got to that point or to that thing, you know?
Yeah, so, I've always really respected Jess as an artist.
Yeah,
because one of the things she says a lot is like when you'll see her when she's looking at other people's work and stuff, and she'll always say, I have no idea how they've done this. That's how I feel when I look at Jess.
Yeah.
When I see her like creative process and the stuff she comes out with, I'm like, I have no idea how you've done any of that. I would love to be able to create something like that.
Yeah.
But even sitting and watching you do it, I have no idea how you're doing that. And it always reminds me of like, back to when we was on walks and we talk about like how people's thought processes are different.
Yeah.
Where I'm very regimented, and if you give me a set of rules to follow or something, then I can do that bang on every time. But then once I have to like freestyle a bit, that's when I kind of lose my way a little bit. I'm like, I need rules. I need something to bring me back in line.
Yeah, yeah.
Because my brain instantly go, if I deviate from the rules, my brain will go, you're doing this wrong.
Okay.
This isn't right. You're not following that strict path you've set.
But I wonder now, do you feel like now that with all the people that we've been meeting and stuff?
Yeah, that's why I'm like that, sort of
kind of breaks that
coming
rule.
Away from that.
Yeah.
But then also like reaffirming it as well, because that's like going back to the Jack thing, like seeing that he does it. His brain kind of works in a similar way to me, where he's got these structures.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't feel like an alien, where I see all these creative people being able to just like pull things out of their mind.
Yeah, and how are they doing that? Where in their mind is that?
Where in your chain of command in your brain is this coming from?
Yeah.
And then seeing Jack like doing it a similar way to how I would like to do it. I'm like, okay, I'm not the only person that thinks like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And seeing like the amazing artwork, and then when we spoke to Russell does it the complete opposite way.
Yeah, he
to me,
breaks the chain. He's like, there is no chain of command.
Like, this guy is fucking crazy.
Yeah. When he told me that he never does a color plan.
Yeah.
I was blown away.
Never really uses like an iPad to like do anything. I was like, fuck.
Just does one little bit of the stencil and just pens it on. And like Dave Teffin was like that though.
Yeah.
Like I'd never felt more out of my depth, you know, there. And it was a very, you know, I remember we got to the London Tattoo Convention. He's a perfect example of like just being, you know, just being an artist and allowing it to happen, you know, because we went to the London Tattoo Convention and we already had this mad night at mine where he painted all the originals for the show, and he did like 6 in a night. I've got 2 of them at the shop, the ones that are signed upstairs.
Yeah.
Which I was really trying to hold myself together, because he's like one of my favorite artists, not just for his art himself, but everything else,
Yeah.
He's had a very kind of hard life, and it not that it necessarily shows through with his work, but it shows through in a way that there's a lot of escapism that's obviously put him to that point, to be like, he's obviously dived so far. This is, I don't know, but this is just my interpretation, that he's dived so far into his craft because of the hard life that he's had, and that escapism really shows in it. He's very fantastical in his process. But we got to London, and we set up the booth, and it's one of the world's renowned prestige tattoo conventions only I could ever dream of being at, when was there. And I was like, oh, what about all your drawings and stuff? And he was like, threw a pack of Sharpies on the table, and he was like, that's it, we'll rock and roll, we'll just see what they want. And with nothing, not even a bead of sweat on his face. I was there like palpitations.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even tattooing. I was just there to sell artwork with him and hang out and all that. And I was like, fuck, this guy is this game on, you know? And he come in, and he was swamped, and people were coming in. He'd do that thing where he would just look around the space for a bit. He would draw some kind of movement and then just go at it. And he would just be like, about your body, about the flow, knows his craft, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he just did these amazing tattoos. And I still am in awe of his process, And I
even like for me, seeing it on Instagram, I'm like, fuck, man, like there's levels to this.
There is levels. There's levels even that you would say to my level. Is that if I could, I've been tattooing 15 years and I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things where there's tattoo. People were arguing about the whole term tattooer and tattoo artists. And I don't want to get into that conversation about that, because I think that we're all artists. And if you're creating something that makes someone feel something and someone likes, no matter how minimal or how big it might be, you're still an artist. I believe if it's made someone feel something, you're good. You're good to go, But his art was really something that motivated me, really, really pushed me to go forward, because I was like, wow, like there's, to make something about, I knew his life, and he was very open with me, and we had a lot of conversations in person and over the phone, especially when I went to New York. He was one of the people that come and picked me up and took me around, and it was like he never leave a guy behind. He was that guy. He was very kind and compassionate, but very fiery and emotional, and you could see that in his work, especially like his battle damage kind of work. It says, but the big murals and all this stuff that he would just pull out and just do. I said one time on another podcast, but he when I was in Queens, I went down to see him, and he was just again penning on this hand. And then he's lining it all, and I'm there, and I remember specifically the machine choking down a whole load, and I was talking to him about that, and he was giving me some insight to why he likes to do that, why he likes a certain drag, and it was kind of like graffiti and all this stuff. And he was like, "Oh, come outside, and I'm going to have a cigarette." And I was there, kind of still like I was very young tattooer at that time, and he had. I had very imposter syndrome around him. Like, why does this guy want anything to do with me? Like at all. So I was really careful what I said at that point. Almost like I was kind of hostage to myself. Don't be yourself fully, because you'll fuck this up.
Yeah, you don't want to look like an idiot.
Yeah. So say something and ask something, because you can't bear not to ask, but you might expose yourself almost, So it was quite anxiety driven, really. I've never actually told him this, but we went outside, and he was smoking a cigarette, and then there was a canvas at the back, and he was just talking to me, just like we were, just normal about what we're going to do tonight. Just picked up this canvas, just started spraying this like dragon head on there, just straight off the thing. And I was there, I was like, fuck. Like, it's, how do you do this? Like, he can't stop. It's like one of those things, like, he can't stop being creative, you know, and he's immersed himself fully in it. It's in that point, it's in your blood, it's in your feeling, it's in everything that you are, you know. And when do you get to that level?
Yeah.
You know,
when does that bit start?
When does that bit start? I don't think it starts for a lot of people. I think we all have our own way, and that's the magic of it. That's what we're saying. We meet Russell, and he's different. We meet Josh. Well, we know Josh, but he was on the podcast, and his, you know, time. I think we'll do another one with Josh, you know, to talk about his creative process, because I believe that we went into a lot of his stuff. But I think that there's a lot to be said, because I remember him having a massive jump, you know, when he comes to the shop. He really like kicked into gear and has a style all of his own, you know.
I really like Josh's style.
Yeah, that thing he was doing today with the head and the moths.
Yeah, that was sick.
That's really cool, yeah. And then the day before, just do a whole sleeve. Yeah, you know, he's a workhorse.
Yeah,
you know,
Josh is like a machine.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, is you see all these different people and their different creative process, and you realize, you go, not anyone is wrong, not anyone is right. They just are. You know, and if you can be in there, then it's okay. You know, you will do well, and that's why people get intimidated to create, but it should just be just create and like it and go forward with it. If, again, to what we were saying before, you can't learn something you're not going to like, you know. Are you enjoying it? Yes. Well, that's half the learning. You know, I don't believe you can learn something that you don't want to really learn or like or want to know, you know. But yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty wild time for those.
It'd be cool to get some more guests. I like the format we've got with the guests of like having them explain, like it's almost like a biography.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
From beginning, because I get to see like from the stage of where I'm at to where they are now. I'm like, yeah, cool. I can do this. So
yeah.
This. Hopefully in 10, 15 years, sometime someone wants to hear my story.
Well, they'll hear it through this.
Yeah.
It'll be the most documented story. Really.
Yeah. No one will want to hear my story.
Like, oh, again.
Bruh, I heard it.
What have you got? Have you got some tattoos this week?
I'm doing some Japanese symbols tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get them translated?
I spoke to them in depth about making sure that this is exactly what you want. I was like, because I don't speak Japanese. I was like, to make sure 100% this is exactly how it should be.
Mate.
And they said that they've learned Japanese and...
Okay, that's on them then.
Yeah. I was like, but just triple check.
Yeah.
I was like, because I don't want to be that guy in like 5 years' time where you come back and like, this means roast beef.
Yeah. Dude, I saw one on TikTok where an Arabic guy, or a guy who speaks Arabic, sorry, he tells people their tattoos that they have written on them.
Yeah.
And some of them were so bad. Like, someone got a tattoo on their neck and it was just Arabic, and they're white.
Yeah.
And it said something like a dog piece of shit or something like that. It's like it relates to, if you had slang, dog piece of shit. So it's like...
Hasn't Ariana Grande got something like that as well? Like some symbols or something?
Oh, and they're wrong.
Yeah, it means like chicken soup.
Oh, no.
Or something. Yeah. I'm sure it's Ariana Grande.
I think it's so funny. Wrong, like, I think it's funny. That like,
I've got some symbols on me. I have no idea what they say. That was like the tattoo I got when I was 14.
Yeah.
And I just come in and was like, that looks cool.
Do you know if it's Chinese or Japanese? Because the woman can translate it for you around the corner.
It might be Chinese, I have no idea, mate. It was just a cool picture on the wall. I was a kid.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we'll chuck all these stars around it. And I was like, I don't want any of that. And he's like, well,
say like
we're doing it now.
Dragon cabbage or something.
Yeah. I hope this is something cool.
When are you going to set up your machine?
Might use it tomorrow,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got...
the battery packs are so expensive.
Yeah, I was looking through them yesterday. Some of them were like 350 quid.
Damn.
I was like, oh, shit.
I remember...
I do have like a power pack and leads and stuff
there
like that. There
must be knockoff ones that you can see on Amazon. Thinking about it. I remember Jake telling me one time about some.
Yeah, I did find some cheaper ones, but I was going to ask you about it first to make sure that they would actually fit on the machine. Because there were some, like on one of the big suppliers' websites.
Yeah.
And they were like between 70 and 90.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I was like, but I want to make sure that will fit on this machine before I drop 90 quid on something that's not going to work.
Yeah, sure. I think it will.
Yeah, it's just RCA. Is it RCA?
Yeah,
it is. What it's called? Yeah, I just need that, don't I?
Yeah. So you might need a couple depending on the tattoo. Well, I guess that's a liner, isn't it? So yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine with the one. But yeah, shall we wrap this up? Shall we go out?
Yeah. It's been nice to be like just the two of us again for a lot.
Yeah. It feels really empty in here, especially like not having the TV on or having stuff to do or remember or just talk and all that stuff. It was
I hope everyone else has enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, I think as well it might make sense with the other episodes for us as well to have like when we have the guests on to then have the recap.
Yeah, that's what this feels like. It's kind of like a recap of what like our first month of podcasting.
Yeah, just our first month. Like that's it.
On
like it's evolving as it goes, and I guess that's the same thing with our tattoo. And you're going to see, myself and Joe. We're going to be evolving in this tattoo process and the whole thing. The podcast is going to be evolving at the same time. And, hopefully this turns into something that really harmonizes well in the end.
It is also a special day today. Because it is 1 year today since I started my apprenticeship.
Is it?
Yeah.
See, when I was talking about the feeling of doing it, and this is it. Well, congratulations.
1 year today.
Wow.
It come up on my phone earlier.
We'll do a really cheesy thumbnail for it now. Yeah. 1 year. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, let's get out of here then. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thanks for checking in. See ya.